visited every to people's concerns. The Sharpe Way is a show where answers, solutions, and common ground can be found so that together we can forge a new way forward. The Sharpe Way is the way to mutual respect, where no one has to convert to be heard, because you can be as liberal or as conservative as you want, as long as you aren't forcing your beliefs on others. Welcome to Sharpe Way Radio.
Yes, it is Larry Sharpe here on Sharpe Way Radio, WYSL, Rochester, New York. You can give me a call. I'll be taking calls right after the first break. 585-346-3000. You know, there was a bit of a hubbub, a hubbubaloo, some hoopla here in New York City recently. People running around doing some crazy things in Manhattan, which is kind of normal for New York City. But it made me think about something. The people who were doing the things were, generally speaking, youngsters, I'd say teenagers, trying to have a cool, fun time. Initially, at least. That's not what happened in the end. But I think that was initially what they wanted to do. And made me think about when I was a kid in New York City, the things I would go into Manhattan to do. I grew up in the Bronx, and I remember in the 70s, I really loved comic books. I mean, I still like comic books, but I really loved comic books. I was one of those kids who would pay for the subscription so the comic book would come to you in the mail every month. And I had multiple subscriptions. This way I'd never miss an issue. That's how much I loved comic books. I had them put in plastic bags and all those things. And I went to a comic book convention. I don't know if they still do it, but the name of the company that did it back then was a company called Creation Comics, Creation Conventions. Anyway, it was Creation Comics with an X. And believe it or not, it was held at the World Trade Center. Yeah, the old Twin Towers back in the 70s. So we went there and I loved it. Tons of people from all over the country came there who loved comic books, and we trade and buy comic books and talk about comic books and the whole cool things you would do for comic book conventions. Most of the people there were teenagers. Most were. There were some who were older, some that were younger, but the vast majority were teenagers. I was young. I was probably 10, 11. So I was one of the younger groups there, but I remember most of them were teenagers, and I was sitting there swapping comics and things of that sort. I actually bought an Avengers #1, which my mom threw out when I went to the Marine Corps. Yes. Imagine how much money that was worth. Anyway, she didn't see the value in my comic book collection. My fault for not letting her know the value. In any case, I also, as I got older, I wanted to go to other types of gaming conventions that I enjoyed. One of them was also in New York. It was at the New York Hotel, the New Yorker, Hotel on the west side of Manhattan. I went there probably 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever it was, to a gaming convention. I enjoyed playing board games and war games and things like that. And again, tons of us went there. An older crowd, young adults, more than teenagers, but some teenagers too. Great time. Everything's great. Well, let me go even further forward. Now we're going to 2003. Something very different. Not people gathering for comic books or people gathering for a convention to play with board games and such. No. 2003, massive amounts of Americans came to New York to protest the war in Iraq. Anti-war protests. Thousands and thousands upon people came to New York to do that. Now, whether you like comic books or games or anti-war protests, whatever that is, and that's over the course of about 40 years. New York City was a place to come, people to gather for a similar issue, a similar reason, a similar goal, interests. And somehow, in all the things in between what I mentioned, to include parades and everything else you can imagine, there aren't massive riots. Not people fighting in the streets with cops. That wasn't a thing. That wasn't a thing. And literally hundreds of thousands of people came to New York in any given year for protests, for conventions, for you name the thing. That's kind of gone away. Still there a bit, right? But not the same. And what happened recently here in New York City, for those of you who may not have been paying attention, a Twitch streamer by the name of Kai Cenat decided he wanted to have some of his followers, people who watch him on Twitch, show up in Manhattan, and he was going to give away these PS5s. That's what he was going to do. PlayStations, and give these gaming consoles away. And he said that. And he showed up. And so did a whole lot of his followers. They showed up. And I guess things didn't go as planned, which that happens. That happened in the anti-war protests in the early 2000s. That happened when people came to parade. It's happened before. But usually, I would say 99% of the time, prior to recent times, it didn't end up with violence and cops arresting dozens of people, half of them being minors. That wasn't a thing. And then charging the individual for inciting a riot. They arrested Kai, charged him for inciting a riot. That's what we do now. That's what happens now. Am I blaming the cops? I'm not. And I have blamed cops before. I will blame cops when I think they're wrong. In this case, cops aren't wrong. They arrested people. That sucks. I wish they didn't have to do that. What else are they going to do? Now, were they ready for this? No. I might blame the cop leadership for not being ready for this. Maybe. I could do that. Maybe. I'm not blaming the cops. They did a job. They're supposed to. I get it. But my point here being, what has changed? What has changed in this city to where now when things don't go right, it turns into a riot? Kai Cenat is just the most recent example of this. There are many others examples of this recently, where things don't go well the way whoever believes it should go, and now there's violence, property destruction, trash joints, fires being set. That's a change. And again, we had anti-war protests here. We had parades of all different types. And very rarely did they end up in violence. I mean, sometimes. But it was rare. Now it's almost the norm. We expect this to happen. And that is my point. As a city, maybe as a state or even as a nation, we have changed what it means to gather. We have changed what's expected for protesting and gathering. It used to be, and maybe I'm off here, and I'm happy if you want to call and tell me how wrong I am, that when you protested, the point of the protest was to get other people to see the value in your cause, whatever your cause was, to see that it mattered, to get them to jump on your side, to go, yeah, these people doing the protesting makes sense. I'm in. I will either show up with you, call my congressman, boycott this company, give you money, whatever is the thing you want. However I can help, I'm in. So often it was theatrical. Sure, I get that. I'm trying to get on the news. I want you to believe that my cause is the right cause. I want you to come show up. I want you to donate money, whatever. Sure. Theatrical, bold. Sure. Vulgar even. Yeah. I don't remember this level of violence, and not just that, property destruction, and not just that, for no obvious cause. Like, what's the cause? Were we supposed to give Kai money? Were we supposed to give these people PS5s? Was that the thing? What was the cause? What was the reason? At least if you're going to trash stuff, tell me how I can, I don't know, support nuclear power or stop the war or save the whales or something. What am I doing? Saving the ocean? Okay, tell me. This is just, man, I'm pissed. I'm gonna trash stuff because I'm pissed. And the sad part is, since the lockdowns, we have accepted this as behavior that's okay. And while the cops will do what they can to arrest, the leadership of the police force didn't do a good job prepping. And we, as a city, New York City, we're going to be mad at the cops. We're going to be like, why did you arrest these people? Don't hurt these people. They're just using their First Amendment or whatever. We're going to do that. So the system is going to fail. The people are going to fail. And who's actually being hurt? The people on the ground. The kids who are now learning it's completely okay to trash things. In fact, it's normal. I'm angry. I should trash things. Okay, they're losing because that's just going to hurt them in life. That's a loss. The cops who are saying, why am I arresting these people so I can be yelled at? They can just be released. Why am I wasting my time? Why am I even doing this? Why should I bother? So cops lose too. And then the people whose property are destroyed. They're sitting there too, like, why am I in the city? What am I doing? The people who lose are the people who are there as always. The people on the ground, the front line, they lose yet again. The city has to make big changes, culturally, in many ways. I think it's obvious. 585-346-3000. Sharpe Way Radio, WYSL, Rochester, New York. Back with your calls and the internet chat after the break.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
To live the quality of life we deserve in truth and freedom, informed by our Constitution, our laws, and traditions, we need to pick the best leaders possible. Recent experience certainly illustrates that. Free and accurate elections are essential if we're going to restore our society and safeguard our rights. New York Citizens Audit is a volunteer, nonpartisan group which has been lobbying for open source audits of the State Board of Elections and reform of the electoral process statewide. Did you know Citizens Audit has uncovered over 1 million felony violations of election law? That in 2020, there were 625,000 more voter registrations than existing voting age citizens in just 6 New York counties, that there were 338,000 more votes cast than voters who voted. These are just a few shocking examples of the urgent need for reform. You can help. Visit auditny.com and learn the facts, how to volunteer, and make a difference in your community. Again, volunteer, donate, or spread the word. Start at auditny.com. That's auditny.com.
Sharpe Way Radio on the WYSL stations.
Yes, it is Larry Sharpe, WYSL, Rochester, New York, Sharpe Way Radio. 585-346-3000 is the number. And before the break, I was talking about New York City specifically, in that we have changed how we handle people who protest and riot and come to our city to enjoy. And why do I bring it up so much? Because any city, particularly New York City, should be a place where people come to gather. Of course they should, right? That is a thing that we should have. People should want to go to the cities so that they can gather and associate and protest if need be, or hang out and play video games or whatever is the thing you want to do. That's the glory of the city. Parades, all those things. But instead, we've lost ourselves. And now people are afraid to come to the city. Violence should not be the answer, without question. But it often is. I would shift things literally into a protest industrial complex, right? You want to protest? You call up an office and they help you out. Where you're going to be, what streets you want to be on, where do you want the cops to be? I mean, the whole deal. Write me a check to the city, protest all day long. Oh, yeah. I want people to come. Let me show you where the restaurants are. You guys can all get food when you come here. When you're done, go see a show. I'm not even joking. We should make it that. We used to do it that way when we were trying to get films to be made here in New York, all types of media. We go out of our way to get media here. You want to protest? Come on in. Let me show you how and where to go. I think if we do that, even bring the press. Let the press go there. All the protests are there. Go ahead. The left and right media can show up. Corporate media can show up. Life is good. That may sound funny, but I'm actually quite serious. People should be able to protest, of course, but you shouldn't have to destroy somebody's property to do so. If your goal is to get attention for whatever your issue or concern is, I don't have a problem with that at all. We should say, here's a great place. The media will be there, and you guys can go get some eat afterwards. Spend some money in my city. Please, spend money in my city, please. Yes, go do that. In fact, we'll have a nice open area. Cops will protect you. Go ahead, yell and scream. All good. But we're not doing that. I think we should. Let me grab a couple comments if I could. Peter says, what these people need is a little baton therapy, aka wooden shampoo. Well, they got some of that actually, Peter, they did. And my problem is twofold. If I, as a parent, say, I'm going to go down a parent road for a second. I let my kid draw on the wall with crayons. I don't say a word. He draws on my wall with crayons. I don't say anything. I either leave it there or I just clean it off. I don't say a word. He goes back on, draws on the wall with crayons. I don't say a word. Like maybe I look at and go, oh, that's pretty good. Either I leave it there or I erase it. He draws again on the wall, crayons. I don't say anything. Or I praise him, either one. Fourth time he draws on the wall and I smack him. Who's wrong here? It's me as the parent. That's bad leadership. That's bad parenting. All right, let's not say a parent.
Mike Rochester.
I'm the boss now. And I say, you can be late to work. You show up late, Peter, I don't say a word. Show up late the next day, I don't say anything. Late again the next day, I say nothing. Late the fourth time, I fire you. I'm wrong. Why? Because I let you get away. I never let you know you can't do this. And I think that's what we've done in New York City. That's my problem in New York City. I think we've let them, accepted it, said nothing, or we've maybe even praised them, and now we get mad at them. That's my problem with your logic, Peter. I think we have to make a change before we go there. That's my view. Let me grab a call if I can. This is Mike from Rochester. Mike, how are you, sir?
Hey, Larry, pretty good. And yourself?
I'm okay. What's going on?
Nothing much. I'm glad you brought up this subject. This is the behavior that we let go in the mainly peaceful protest of the BLM. And this
you're right. Yes, good point.
This is the commie left doctrine of using useful idiots, as Lenin had quoted them. Okay,
what do you mean by that?
Well, what happens is, we know the left and the commies here want disruption, and what they're doing is they're using the useful idiots of the youth, okay, to disrupt things. This riot here in New York City, this was just it wasn't organized as that. That was just the icing on the cake of what they've been doing for the last few years. Okay,
I agree with you.
You allowed them to do their peaceful rioting or protesting with BLM. Okay, you let them burn down $2 billion worth of people's things. The looting of people's stores. I don't see what civil rights is when you're looting a Nike store. I don't see that. Okay, what's the correlation? You let these people go, and now these younger people who don't know any better are now being, okay, well, we get together, we could do this, we could act like
I'm going to go one step further, Mike. I'm going to go further than that, and that is not only do we get to do, it's almost expected. I would even go that far, right? That when things don't go the way I want them to go, whatever way that is, it's okay for me to strike out, right? In fact, it's the norm. And I'll go further than what you said. I think when we allow the biggest issue, I will say, with the BLM riots wasn't the BLM part, it was the lockdown part. Now all of a sudden, you got literally people who are locked down for months, couldn't go to work, couldn't go to school, sitting at home watching Netflix. And now all of a sudden people say, well, come on out. They're letting us do this. We can go protest if we want to. We can go out and hang out at night. We haven't done that in months. And the youth rushed out and go, great. All that pent up stuff came up. A couple of bad people started doing bad stuff. No one stopped those couple of people. Other people said, oh, we could do this then. All right, let's go do this. So I think in years past, when the bad apples did something bad, others would say, no, I'm walking away. No, let me stop. Or the cops would have stepped in or something like that. This time, once the bad apples did something, there was nothing. Others jumped on board. And I think since then, we haven't openly said, this was a bad idea. Don't do this. And I think it's become almost the norm. Have I gone too far, Mike?
No, actually, you brought up my point quite eloquently. And also, too, this is planned chaos. This was planned chaos. The lockdown, the riots. This was all planned. This is the left that's been planning this since the 50s when they started infiltrating all the schools, the colleges. You've seen it.
I think you're giving the left 60s. Too much credit on this one.
Oh no! The left is pretty resilient, and they've been doing it. It's a slow march. Okay,
that would mean 70 years of marching.
The end goal. Okay, this is the end goal of if you look back in the history of socialism and you go all the way back. Okay, you go back to Marx and Lenin, and this is
but here's the issue, right? I get what you're saying, but if you look at so many of the people who are doing this, it isn't only left; it's all the elites. Many of them are left. That's true. But there's also people who wouldn't say they're on either side, who just want power. And there's some on the right too. And they're all okay with the lockdowns and the control. And then the responses, right? I get what Peter is saying with cracking down on people. I do. I get his emotion. But that also is a form of violence crackdown too, which makes the violence okay. That's my issue. Am I making sense?
Somebody in the head with a baton. I'm just saying that this is organized. So thanks.
Okay. Thanks for the call, Mike. I appreciate it. So tell me, is Mike right? Am I right? Are we both wrong? Tell us. 585-346-3000. Larry Sharpe, Sharpe Way Radio, WYSL Rochester, New York. Back with your calls and more of your internet chat after the break.
For truth and freedom.
WYSL.
AM 1040 Avon Rochester, FM 92.1 Rochester, and FM 95.5 Spencerport.
Here's the news and NBC forecast on WYSL. For tonight, we're going to see a chance for a sprinkle early, but clouds will decrease through the overnight period. We are expected to stay breezy with a low of 60. For tomorrow, on Wednesday, we're warmer, high temperature of 82 degrees expected in the afternoon. Plenty of sunshine through the day, and then as we head into Wednesday night, we are going to see clouds increase below of 63. I'm First Alert Meteorologist Alex Bielfeld on your WYSL stations.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations. Summertime fun's better than ever in your new ride from Victor Chevrolet, the new leader for Chevy in Rochester, Canandaigua, and Fairport. Check out these great lease specials. Go anywhere on road or off in your new 2023 Chevy Silverado 1500 LT Crew Cab. Just $389 a month for 36 months. Lease loyalty requires current 2018 or newer Chevy Blazer, Equinox, or Colorado lease through GM Financial. Or how about the 2023 Chevy Equinox LT all-wheel drive? Only $199 a month for 27 months. Must have current lease and household. Mileage allowance on all deals, 10,000 miles per year. $4,900 cash or trade equity plus first payment and DMV fees required at closing. Get more details at dealer. And remember, Victor Chevrolet also has an unbeatable pre-owned selection. Check VictorChevrolet.com for new and used inventory, service specials, and deals on tires, plus EV specials. Whatever brand of vehicle you're driving, you can trust it to our Chevy Certified Service Department. Come see how easy it is to do business with us. Find new roads at Victor Chevrolet, Route 96 in Victor.
I was running late for work. Backing out of the driveway, I ran over my wife's cat. Showing up late, they fired me. Then my upset wife left me. Then I called Western New York Sealing and Paving. They did a great job on my driveway. Thanks, Western New York.
Some situations may be over-dramatized.
WNYPave.com. That's WNYPave.com.
Call 247-8466, 247-8466.
Geneseo Hardware and Rental has all your project needs from inside to outside, underground or in the air. A wide range of rental items, boom lifts, trencher, stump grinder, post hole diggers, and more. Geneseo Hardware offers screen and window repair. Voted best hardware store in Livingston County. Open daily, including Sundays. Get personalized service. Geneseo Hardware and Rental, Route 20A next to Wegmans Plaza. Just minutes from Kinesis Lake.
Next to life itself, time is God's greatest gift. Every minute of your child's precious school years should be spent in devotion to truth, not some agenda. An Archangel School.
Okay, we have Keith from Rochester.
Fosters achievement, not conformity.
You're welcome.
Affordable, safe, small class sizes, and zero time wasted on CRT or Common Core. Your family values are honored, and parental involvement is warmly welcomed. Archangel School kids learn to soar, not march. 247-1112.
Don't hate your home. Pick up the phone and call Wise Home Energy. Do you suffer from allergy and asthma flare-ups? Does the wildfire smoke burn your eyes and smell inside your home? Are you concerned with the indoor air quality that your family is breathing? Wise Home Energy's award-winning team has a solution for you. Start with a Wise Home assessment to see how your air quality can be improved. So don't hate your home. Pick up the phone and call 585-270-5836 today.
Hey, do you like to fly on airplanes? How about a ride in a vintage C-47 cargo plane, the very same plane that dropped U.S. airborne troops over Normandy on D-Day? Visit NationalWarplaneMuseum.com for more information.
All Seasons Wine and Spirits, your local and locally owned store, supporting your neighbors and our community. Always save at All Seasons on cases of your favorites. No sales events necessary. All Seasons Wines and Spirits voted best in Livingston County, 255 Main Street in Avon.
Sharpe Way Radio on the WYSL stations.
It is Larry Sharpe here on Sharpe Way Radio, WYSL Rochester, New York, 585-346-3000. For the break, we're talking about New York City specifically, New York State and the country though, but heavily New York City, about how do we handle protests, gatherings, riots? What have we done in the past and what have we set up? And what are we reaping from that? Let me grab a call if I could. I'm going to grab Keith from Rochester. Keith, how are you, sir?
I want to say right up front, Mike is 10,000% correct, and I'm disappointed that you, Mr. Sharpe, don't understand the enemy. In fact, Mike mentioned the 50s. The left goes back much more than that, when the commies in the 20s and 30s were trying to unravel America. Believe it or not, there's always been upwards mobility, so they knew they could not take our country apart by class, so they decided it was going to be race, R-A-C-E, in capital block letters. So everyone, whether they state it or not, everyone, bottom line, wants law and order and stability. And when you don't get that, then you get a meltdown. So here's an acronym, RAM, R-A-M, Race and Marxism. The supermajority in Albany is controlled by black Marxist Democrats. They control the entire state. Hochul is a weak governor. She only won 13 out of the 62 counties. That's right. She only won 13. That's 49, everyone, that she did not win, but they were the most populous. 13. Hochul only won 13 counties.
So hold on. A couple things, Keith. One, I wasn't saying that Mike was wrong. That's not what I said. What I said was, it's hard for me to believe this is a purposeful 70-year march. That was hard for me to believe. Do I believe that there are people who want to do what you said? 100%. Do I think most of them are left-leaning? 100%. I also believe there are people who don't care about ideology, who just like the power, and they may be independent or even right-leaning. They just want the power. So I think many of them have jumped on board regardless of ideology. That's what I was saying.
Okay. There's a book
Another call on hold.
I would like everyone to look into. The book is entitled The 100-Year
John.
Marathon. In 1955, the Chinese Communist government put out a plan 100 years into the future for undoing America as the top dog in the world, and they're doing a pretty good job of it.
That's
the title of the book, The 100-Year Marathon. I would really beseech everyone to go, if only on the internet, and look at that. Mike is exactly correct, but even he is understating just how long the communists have been at us. I'll give you a fast example. Stalin sent all of his spies into pre-World War II America, and they stole thousands of rolls of microfilm having to do with our industrial secrets. Now, the communists in Russia could not take our capitalist ideas because the commie system in Russia would not allow them to put into capitalistic practice all of the stolen intelligence.
All right. So here, look, this was. Please repeat the book title again.
The 100-Year Marathon.
There we go. The 100-Year Marathon. Keith, I'm going to check it out because I am a skeptical. I am, but that's fine. Doesn't mean you're wrong. Just means I'm skeptical. I will check the book out. I appreciate it.
Am I finished here or what?
Yes. There we go. Thank you, Keith. I appreciate it. Let me grab a call if I can. I'm going to grab John. John, how are you, sir?
Hey, Larry. It's funny Keith brought up the communist Chinese. Harry Truman, who I was a big admirer of, actually made a mistake. MacArthur urged him, because MacArthur recognized right after World War II that the communist Chinese were going to overtake the country from the nationalist Chinese. And MacArthur urged Truman to allow the United States to support the nationalist Chinese, and Truman decided not to. And
I'll go one step further. Patton, in 1945, wanted to unite with the Germans. I'm not joking. He wanted to take the now denazified or semi-denazified Germans, because he was okay not denazifying the entire country, and taking their military and American military and British military and attacking the Russians. He wanted to destroy the Soviets. And of course, he was removed because no politics wanted them to do that. And then MacArthur was on the opposite side in the Pacific saying, okay, now we've got the Japanese. Let's go take out the Chinese now. I think both generals wanted to take out communist nations back in the 40s and 50s.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that about Patton, but it's pretty. So I learned something interesting today. But the reason for my call was you were talking about some of the mobs and the riots that are going on in New York City, et cetera. And I got to tell you, the left and BLM and the left could take a good lesson from the Tea Party. I went to 3 Tea Party rallies. It had to be 10, 12 years ago now. One was in Rochester, one in Buffalo, one in Albany. And I'll just show, in Rochester, I was so impressed with the people that organized that rally. It was at the river, and they had some speakers, et cetera. And then we marched down the middle of Main Street to City Hall. And there had to be 1,500, 2,000 people. And it was really a great feeling. And we get to City Hall, and to do this, they needed permits. And the organizers got permits. They got the police permit to march down Main Street, everything by the book. We get to City Hall, more speeches, and a couple people said, okay, let's march down to the Federal Building. And the organizer stood up on the mic and said, no, we don't have permission to do that. We're going to play it by the book. And that was
So do you think, let me ask that question then. Do you think then that the Tea Party was able to get what it wanted more effective than BLM or the other rioters? Right. I get that you liked the protest that way. I'm fine with that. I think government should be very easy on giving permits out and very easy making that happen. But do you think it was more effective?
I do. When you think about it, it got Donald Trump elected, and it also the Republicans took over Congress, or at least one of the. I think they took both houses after. In the off term election after Obama got elected, I believe the Republicans took control of Congress. But
I remember Obama said he got a shellacking.
Yeah,
that was the word
I
he
think
used.
a lot had to do with the behavior, good behavior of the Tea Party.
Well, there we go. I think that's really my point. Thank you. I think John, you've kind of joined me on my point. I feel that New York City and all the cities, but I'm saying New York City specifically because we're so big, we should be open to protests, open to parades, open to all those things. Make it easy, make it safe, and say to people, violence is not acceptable, right? I don't want Mike to be right. I don't want Keith to be right. I want them to be wrong. Now, they might be right, but I don't want them to be right. And if we're able to stop the violence and make the violence unacceptable, but still allow people to protest and do the things, I think we can have a better country in general. I think it was Jefferson who said, when peaceful protest is not allowed, violent revolution becomes the only answer. I think I'm paraphrasing. Does that make sense, John?
Yeah, it does make sense. And again, I think the Tea Party is a good role model for any group whether it's BLM, the left, groups on the right, etc., the Proud Boys, whatever. That's the way to do it. And number one, they were proved to be successful. They got Trump elected. They got control of Congress only because they set a good example.
There we go. John, I appreciate the call. I think you're right.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Yeah, I get that piece, right? Is in theory, even if I would disagree with someone's views, I would want them to be able to protest, to get people to care, to get people to give money or show up, or, as John said, march down to the building or whatever and show pressure and get what they think is appropriate. I think it's a wonderful idea. We should do it. The violent part, destruction of property part, is the part that begins to bother me, because now it becomes okay because I'm angry. So I'm angry so I can destroy things. Right? But if we make it hard, I think we ask for it in a way. Sam says, thank you, Sam, for the chat online. What was the quote? Riots are the voice of the unheard. Yes, that was MLK. Another point, right? If you make it hard for people to say their piece, they get violent. Desperate people do desperate things. Yes. Samuel goes on to say, the pen is mightier than the sword. I want it to be. My worry, Sam, is that the equivalent of the pen today is basically social media, right? That's the pen today. Social media is mightier than the sword, or I guess would be the firearm, I guess, maybe, I don't know, whatever you would call that. I want to give us, and us, I mean Americans, as much power on social media to say what we want to say as possible, which is why I'm against, all the censorship. Because if we let it out, I think you're completely correct. We will have less violence. We'll have less. I mean, look, there will always be some people who will be violent. I don't think we can stop that. But can we lessen it? 100% yes. Can we reduce it and make it safer? Absolutely yes. 100%. Michael Voss, hey, how are you, sir? He says, bigger question, what does BLM and Antifa actually want? They protest violently in insurrectionist manners, autonomous zones, constantly, but what do they want? End goal, which may explain the use of violence. Well, I think this goes to kind of what both Keith and Mike were saying, is that the goal is violence in itself. Okay, I get that, and I think they're right. I don't want that. So Peter, of course, responds with, well, beat him over the head. Okay, I get that too. But my point is we have to set up an environment first. What basically John was saying. We've got to set up an environment to where you can just protest on your own, to where this becomes odd, weird, stupid, wrong in the eyes of the community. If the community goes, no, let them burn stuff, it's all good. Who cares what cops do? If the community's okay with it. And sadly, in many parts of this city, they are. So let's change the environment so people who don't have goals are disdained, are pushed away. Right now, that's not true. Am I wrong? 585-346-3000. Larry Sharpe, WYSL Rochester, New York, Sharpe Way Radio, back with your calls and more of your internet chat after the break.
Your business relies on computers and technology.
Okay, we have Luther from Rochester.
And servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
To live the quality of life we deserve in truth and freedom, informed by our Constitution, our laws, and traditions, we need to pick the best leaders possible. Recent experience certainly illustrates that. Free and accurate elections are essential if we're going to restore our society and safeguard our rights. New York Citizens Audit is a volunteer, nonpartisan group which has been lobbying for open source audits of the State Board of Elections and reform of the electoral process statewide. Did you know Citizens Audit has uncovered over 1 million felony violations of election law? That in 2020, there were 625,000 more voter registrations than existing voting age citizens in just 6 New York counties, that there were 338,000 more votes cast than voters who voted. These are just a few shocking examples of the urgent need for reform. You can help. Visit auditny.com and learn the facts, how to volunteer, and make a difference in your community. Again, volunteer, donate, or spread the word. Start at auditny.com. That's auditny.com.
Sharpe Way Radio on the WYSL stations.
It is Larry Sharpe here, WYSL, Rochester, New York, Sharpe Way Radio. Glad to be here with you guys. Before the break, talking about protesting, rioting, what works, what doesn't work, what's the goal, is there one? All those things. We have a very interesting chat today. Let me grab another call if I could. I'm going to grab Luther from Rochester. Luther, how are you?
Hey, Larry, how are you?
What's going on, my friend?
I've been great. Everything's good in Rochester here. I just wanted to say a couple things.
Sure.
First of all, the migrants from New York City have been coming up to Rochester, and I know that here in Rochester, in the city, like there's already, I think, tens of migrants or so. I forgot the number, and they're already being settled in the city of Rochester. They've come illegally to the country, and now they're here in Rochester. And I've seen 5 homeless people on Main Street downtown.
Are the homeless people you saw, are those migrants or are those non-migrant homeless people?
They're actually local Rochester natives, Rochester residents. I actually sometimes will take a detour to get home, and I'll drive on Main Street and I'll count how many homeless people are in Rochester. I mean, that's like what I see on Main Street, but obviously the numbers I'm sure are higher. Right. But I just wanted to hear your perspective on this. And also recently we had
another call on hold.
Canceled. And obviously there was just so much violence in that neighborhood that they canceled it. And so I wanted to hear your perspective as well. I know you were talking about violence and rioting on your show, but I wanted to hear your perspective on this and everything. I just thought what was canceled again? The Puerto Rican festival. The festival wasn't canceled, but the parade was canceled. Sorry.
Yes. So let me cover both of those pieces. The first one is the migrants. I'm not against migrants. I mean, people think that no, not against migrants at all. I'm against us having literally no control over migrants, which makes them basically just people who are now hurting us. They're not helping if we have no control over them. That's just the reality of it. And we can do it if we want to, but why would we? What's actually happening is there's now basically a migrant industrial complex. I'm not joking. There used to be, still is kind of, a homeless industrial complex, but the migrant industrial complex is actually more lucrative because the federal government steps in to put in even more money into this. And now people are grifting off of these people who, in their world, they just want a better place to live. I get it. I'm not mad at them for coming here. If I was there, I'd come here too, Luther. You would also, and so would anybody else listening. I'm mad at us for the way we handle it. We have completely dropped the ball, completely screwed up. If you're coming into our country, we should be able to control our border with them coming into our country. We're not doing that. And so now when they come to New York State, we're not controlling the people who come to New York State either. Why? Because there's cash involved. Follow the money. Uncle Joe is writing big checks to New York State every time we take migrants. So we keep taking them. That's the reason why. It's not because we love them. We don't. I don't mean to be mean. We don't. We're doing it for the money. Now, do local businesses want them? Depends. Some of them do. Big business can't wait to get them because they're cheap labor. Of course, I get it. That's what they want. I understand. So my answer, Luther, is why don't we have some type of massive intake center? I've suggested the Bronx. Why? Because many of the migrants speak Spanish, and the Bronx is a heavily Spanish-speaking borough. So just put them in the Bronx or wherever. I said the Bronx. You want to come to New York State, you go to the migrant center in the Bronx, and they process you. Who are you? Do you have a problem? Are you connected to the cartels? Do you have some kind of disease? What skills do you have? What county wants you? Because you have this skill set. You can control them just like big business controls people, just like massive recruiting companies control it. It can be done. But the problem, if you do it that way, there's no government grift. This is all about government grift. People getting paid. And now they're actually throwing out, as you said to your point, local Rochester homeless people out of hotels to put migrants in. Why? It's more lucrative because now there's federal monies, not just state money. Did I answer your question, Luther?
Yeah, you did. And it's interesting because in Albany, like I go
Roger.
to this conference every single year, and I said over social media,
3 minutes.
If you cancel my conference and let those migrants in, the blood's going to be on your hands, because we've been away from that conference since 2019 with the coronavirus, and we just want to get back together. So
100%.
So I understand, like, from a human empathy, the migrants, but you get the whole point.
I do. Luther, thank you so much for the call. I appreciate it, my friend.
Okay, Roger.
Let me grab one more call. Roger from Nassau. Roger, how are you?
Roger?
Roger, you there?
Hey. Yeah, I'm here.
What's going on?
Hello? Hey. I missed your whole entire show, so I just see the title, and I don't know what was said, but I guess it was how to control riots and protests.
What I was talking about, Roger, is that we have to be better in particularly cities in allowing people to be able to protest easily and safely, because if we don't, people are going to start getting violent. People are going to start doing crazy things. Desperate people do desperate things. In addition, we need to make that the norm, that people don't do violence, that we don't accept violence and destruction of property as the norm, and that we instead support people in saying what they want to say and letting social media pick it up without them going violent. If the local people think violence is okay, it doesn't matter what the cops do. That was my point.
Well, here's the thing that is never talked about, and it's only really talked about depending on what political affiliation you are, whatever. But a lot of times these cops are the ones that are planting people in the protest to start some stuff going on. You know what I mean? But the right only recognizes that when it happens to them. Look, I have no problem. I have no problem with, and I don't like Ted Cruz because he hates New Yorkers, but I have no problem Ted Cruz going at that guy, that police officer or the FBI guy that was talking about Ray F.
Yep. So thank you for that, Roger. Let me wrap this up with, I agree. Sometimes you find cops and police forces, federal or state, helping to start trouble to make things collapse. That's true. That also shouldn't happen. Guys, I want to say thank you so much for today. Thank you for watching the show and listening. I will see you all very soon.